if anybody here looks crazy enough to run for office. But that's right, we do. Yep. It is a selfless job. The pay is terrible. The abuse is horrendous. The hours are long. But the things that they do on our behalf can be absolutely wonderful. And to that end, I'd like to introduce another state rep. Normally, I don't like to have a lot of elected officials here because most of them are just not a lot of fun. They don't have a sense of humor. They're really not interested in the work or listening to people who are purported to be their supporters. But I've got one like Laura and like the others who are going to follow, and of course like Speaker O'Brien, JR Hoell, who has become a dear friend of mine. JR and I somehow crossed paths at a Second Amendment rally or something, and for the last better part of a year have been working together on the radio, on legislation, any number of things. In fact, to speak directly to Laura Jones' discussion of money, he and I have formed a political action committee called Packing New Hampshire. Its sole purpose is to raise money to find and support candidates and incumbents who are absolutely unmovable on Second Amendment rights. So we've got money coming in already. We're finding our candidates and we're finding the bad guys. So you can help us in that effort. JR, please, if you'd join me. And we've got, I think, his chaperone, one of his wonderful 4 kids, who introduced himself to me as Benjamin David.
Thank you. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
You betcha.
I'm going to start with a letter from a constituent, and then I'm going to go into a talk. Oops. Representative Hoell, I live in Bow, and I read about your carry bill today. This is 1264, before it was co-opted. I'm disappointed to read how this bait and switch occurred. These sorts of disingenuous parliamentary gimmicks are the prime reason why so many people choose not to participate or get involved in their own governance. The actions of this week have clearly undermined public trust in these elected officials. Regarding this commission and the discussion on this new bill, I want to bring up your attention that Missouri has already tried universal background checks with poor results. In short, murders actually grew at a faster rate in Missouri. And it goes on. Along the way, I've come to conclude that the most frustrating thing about politics, and I've been on the sidelines for a long time, I ran to 2002 the first time, was a fundamental distrust in the people in office who said one thing and did another. And that's why people aren't involved. Our friends aren't out there. I've given up voting. It doesn't matter. The former rep just said something about that, right? She mentioned someone who had said, yep, 30 years and hadn't voted. The time is now, guys. At the end of the day, okay, if we don't start to take back our state, we're going to look like, and I'm going to pick on our neighboring state to the south, Massachusetts. I have a whole bunch of friends on Northeast shooters, okay, who often get into these long strings of debates about whether New Hampshire is going to look like Northern Mass. Guys, we can end that debate today. We can end that debate in 2014. How do I know that? Let's talk about election numbers. The prime sponsor of 1589, Representative Ahern from the Seacoast, won her district by 144 votes. Okay? It was a floterial this time. It was 6,700 people. But in 2012, she lost that seat in a district half the size because of the different towns, some of which were the same, by 762. We'll say those numbers again. She won by 144, but in 2010 she lost by 762 in a district that was half the size. It's time to get involved. Okay? It's going to mean getting in the car in November and the end of October and knocking on doors. It's going to mean writing letters. Okay? It's going to mean, as Representative Jones had said, adopt a legislator. Miss Olson and I formed a PAC because I was frustrated and she was frustrated at the fact that we continue to lose in these critical races by a small number of votes. It's not that hard to fix this. The money won't be used for my campaign. There are friends who want to see me back in who will put money aside for that. But we need to get others involved. I need help finding people. I need help in that pack to be able to help fund their races. My youngest is running around here with a green hat. He's one of 4. There he is. I won't put a cost on my time with my kids, okay? I can figure out how much it costs me as an engineer to be at the State House. It's a fairly large number. Estimate 500 hours, man-hours worth of time, figure out what your rate is, and you'll figure out what it costs. But you can't put a price on your time without your kids. My kids have signed up to this alongside of me and said, you know what? It's time to make our state the pro-liberty state that we claim in terms of live free or die. And that's a big price for them to pay. And I want to honor their commitment to this cause by making sure I don't go and lay down and roll over when it comes to what happens in the State House. Interestingly enough, our opponents, whether good or bad, have managed to publish their agenda. I'm going to read some of it. Just I want you to think about these things. Published in Seacoast Online, Hard Lessons Learned in a Gun Background Check Defeat. Point 1. Clarify that this is not a debate about guns or the Second Amendment. It's a debate about taking reasonable, limited measures to keep guns out of the hands of people with a proven history of violence and volatility. Is that what they want? No, that's the way they're going to mask what they really want, which is to take firearms away. Okay? So listen, when you hear the words common sense, or reasonable, or limited, that's not their goal. That's the way they're marketing their goal of taking away our firearms. Next point. The next background check bill should address only commercial sales from the onset. Is that what they want? No, they want to prohibit firearm sales between individuals. They want every gun to go through a 4473 so that the federal government can come in and scan those documents later on to know where the guns reside. Anybody paying attention to Ukraine? Yes. Venezuela? Ireland, right? Weimar Republic, the list goes on. This is not a partisan issue. Democratic leaders have shown that they cannot be counted on. The argument needs to be made legislator by legislator that we should not presume to know someone's position simply because they have a D or an R after their name. Well, I agree with that. Unfortunately, there's issues on both sides. I agree with that statement completely. It isn't a partisan issue. Those who support our constitutional rights, and as the former speaker, Mr. Underwood, said, right, it goes beyond that. It really is our natural rights. And I love the fact that Article 2 calls it out as natural rights. Okay? These were there before the Constitution. The Constitution just documented what already existed. Yes. So you need to be careful when a Republican says, yep, I'm going to get up and do something. Make sure he or she's going to do it. The same thing is true on the Democratic side. It's not a partisan issue. They're either going to support the Constitution or they're not. And it's time to make sure when you put effort into candidates, you're putting effort into candidates like the ones you're hearing here today speak, some of the other ones that aren't here but have been tirelessly fighting for our constitutional rights. Show of hands, how many people have a pet, a dog or a cat? Dogs are a great example where I'm going with this one. Okay. Did you get the dog as a little puppy? And did he do things in your living room carpet that you didn't like? What did you do back then with the puppy? Right? Snap him on the nose maybe, kind of show him to the door to make sure he leaves his droppings outside? Yeah. Why? Because you didn't like that behavior. It's time to take politicians who violate our natural rights and to show them the door. Yes. A small tap on the nose and maybe stuffing their nose in what they did wrong and then showing them the door is also acceptable behavior.
Whack them with a newspaper.
Whack him with a newspaper. Whoever said that is true. A letter to the editor, the letter that came to me in the email, and I will talk to the individual who wrote it, that letter to the editor, okay, is far more effective. Because when they have to turn around and say, oh, my rep did the following, and I'm horrified at their actions, that is really, really effective at changing things. They tell me at work you shouldn't discuss religion and politics. Well, that's kind of hard for me personally. But I have managed in all the companies I've worked for, out of the woodwork come all these people who agree with me on the Second Amendment. And I believe that it is true, which is why even in an Obama year, okay, when this state was running left because of all of the voter fraud and all the others who had come in by the busload to vote in certain districts, I still did better than I did the prior year. And that was because those said, I trust that guy up in Concord. And it's true, the people that are speaking here. The Republicans who honored their oath in general did better. We need to put the effort into finding, recruiting, and getting those candidates elected in 2014. Yes, we can have a fight about 1264 on March 5th. I will be there to do that. Okay? Someone taking a bill to fix, effectively a housekeeping bill to fix an issue between those in Vermont who can't carry here because our statute requires a license from your home state, but Vermont doesn't issue one, that they've kind of did a runaround in the rules. To take that housekeeping bill and to turn it into an anti-gun study commission is wrong. It was wrong in committee. It will be wrong on the floor. It's not germane. Even the House Minority Office came out with a publication that said it wasn't germane, but they did it anyway. If you go to what they have published, and someone attended a meeting of the Seacoast Moms Group and published it on Facebook, what their agenda is, and I can read portions of it here today, it follows very much where this study committee wants to go. The updated amendment to 1264 by Pantelakis, Cushing, Butler, Shurtleff, and Ahern, okay, states, and this was a bill, literally a housekeeping bill. Just let those in Vermont be able to have a license here because we have automatic reciprocity with them. We can go there and carry a firearm open or concealed. Why can't they do that here? Well, we ask for a license, okay? But they can't get a license because our statute doesn't allow them, even though the Department of Safety has managed to somehow come up with a rule that says if you bring a letter from your chief of police, you can get a license. There is established a commission to study the impact of firearms violence. Wait a minute. We're the safest state in New England. Why are we even bothering to study this? Right? These people are coming in from states to the south. Some of the sponsors on this moved in from our state to the south. Some of them moved in from New York City, in fact. There's some real issues down in their states. They have really restrictive firearms laws, and you know what? Their violence rates are a lot higher. They go on to explore options to strengthen background check system for firearm sales. And then they go into the members of the committee, which is stacked, as best as I can count, no less than 8-2 in favor of taking away gun rights. Because there's probably a dealer out there who's willing to sit on the committee and say, yeah, I don't mind if everybody has a 4473. I'm going to make 25 bucks on the deal. So it probably isn't going to be hard to find one. If that's the case, it's 8-2. Hey, bud. They complained in the press about a committee that was 3 members from the House from the majority, 3 members from the House from the minority, and a member of the Senate. And they said that was biased. I don't know how to make a fairer study commission. That's exactly the makeup of the House. It's roughly 50-50. But yet they came out accusing us of having a biased study when they stack a committee 8-2 the other way. In closing, we won the fight on 1589 because you guys got involved. You wrote letters, you made phone calls. Okay? We need to do the same thing. You need to remind your friends to do the same thing. But more importantly, and that, I hate the idea of a study commission, but that study commission goes away in 12 months. Senate Bill 244 won't go away. If that's passed into law, okay, we will start taking away the rights through a process that's very arbitrary. And that's the dangerous side of this bill. Mental health is not something you can do a blood analysis for. It's not like drinking and driving for say, right? Where you can say, yep, I measured the person's blood alcohol content, it's 0.8 or 0.08. 0.08.
You're thinking about Democrats.
The ones with ducks. There is no real good metric, okay, for whether someone's mentally insane. That's the problem. Our entire judicial system is based on the presumption of innocent until proven guilty, until the person has committed an act where they have violated the rights of others. What happens if we pass this bill is someone can make an accusation. You can go before a judge or go before a board at a hospital, and they can determine that you need a guardian and you've lost your rights and there is no chance for restoration. Those pushing the amendment don't realize that we don't tell the FBI who comes off of NICS. We can tell them who shouldn't be on the list, but the FBI still takes you off. And at the end of the day, it hasn't been proven to me yet that it's not anything other than a one-way door. If someone wants to go fix NICS, great. Start by fixing NICS to make sure that anybody who has proven that they are no longer should be on it is right off. That's the National Shooting Sporting Foundation is out there pushing Fix NICS. Well, fix NICS by making sure we can get it off of it. If for whatever reason you got inadvertently put on, you should be off of it as soon as possible. In fact, it should go away, but that's a long-term goal, not a short-term goal. And to those who miscellaneous blue are taping this, please publish that. Lastly, there's been so we talked about 244. At the table over here, the table over there, there's some postcards that we want to send to the members of the Senate so we can kill this. New Hampshire Firearms Coalition is willing to underrate all the postage to mail them in. All you have to do is fill them out. So if you can slowly, during the rest of the day, walk over, fill out a postcard, we will put them in one of the 2 collection boxes. We will get those mailed to the senators. It is time to start turning up the heat on the Senate and kill SB 244. With that, I'll close my remarks. Thank you.
Paging Benjamin David. He's wandered off somewhere. You see him that way. Thank you, JR. Bad bills can't be made better. Bad bills need to be stopped. Bad bills need to be ITL'd. So help us in that cause.
Croc TV.